Deputy Mayor Williams, do we TIF some residential properties?
We have not done a lot of TIFs. Matter of fact, I believe in 2006, there was a TIF that was done for a project out of Harmont, Rush Road. And then I think we found out in 2010 it wasn't done correctly. We weren't collecting any other revenues. So we had to file some additional forms. So that's the only one.
For example, could I apply for a TIF in my house if I do some improvements on it?
I'm not sure. I don't believe so, but I'm not certain.
The reason I think you know why I'm asking that is that when construction was being done on this, it was argued, now that we were not involved in that, but I've had conversations with Mr. Kuhn. You know, I like Steve and I like the project, but the conversation was, well, this is a residential building. Okay, you can't argue it's commercial, so carpenters are paid at residential rates, other tradesmen are paid at residential rates. So it's a residential building when we go to do construction, but now, apparently now it's a commercial building when it's time to try to get a tax credit. Farm subsidy season's coming up and wonder if it's going to be agricultural. I mean, is there a flower pot? Is it military? I mean, it's residential when it's time to pay a carpenter. But it's commercial when it's time to get a tax break. And that bothered me because, there was, it's very clear, perhaps Leader Morris would probably know this better than I, but I believe 4 floors is generally considered commercial. More than 4 floors, it's a commercial building, and so yes, I do believe it is commercial, and I believe this is within the framework of it. But I thought it was commercial when we were, when it was the work was being done on it as well.
Well, just to attempt to answer that, there's probably several questions in one. As you are aware, the major issue with members of council was one, was this going to be a PLA project, was it going to be a local labor project, was Mr. Kuhn a union contractor, etc. I believe the answer was yes to the majority of those questions. I think the issue with residential rates versus commercial rates was something that he tried to negotiate with our local building trades. I think he did pay commercial rates on mechanical, electrical, but
some of them were. But again, from the developer, this is residential. From what he said, take somebody at their word. It's a residential building, but now it's not a residential building when it's time for a TIF. And that's my issue there, was that I never felt it was residential in the first place. It's always been commercial. I don't believe that the TIF is out of line, but I believe that the pay rates for the building trades were. So that's just, I'm saying my piece on that, but I have some real issues with it shifting on where, it financially benefits the developer the most.
Thank you. I don't believe it's up to council's decision, nor has it come to a vote before this council, nor should it be on wheelhouses to that structure. That's a negotiated structure that they agreed to. And I think that there was union rates and paid and employed here. There were no problems or issues in the development. And I think we're stepping out of our boundary lines if we look to what they call in particular meaning. You can negotiate a contract for a whole lot less with your union people, and sometimes that happens depending on work conditions. We're not in a private contracting industry. It shouldn't be an issue with us. The only thing we need to do is decide we're going to put this TIF into effect and have it make it happen or not make it happen.
But it becomes our business, Madam Chair, it becomes our business when we're being taxpayers are being asked to subsidize it to the tune of a loan and now a TIF as well. And that's just my point. It's not our business if none of our money is in it.
We are receiving interest on the payment.
Okay, wait a minute.
We're out of chain of command here.
I've been down here for a lot of years. And every project that comes down here, no one ever asked what was negotiated, what unions involved. I sat here and watched when what was that, this nursing facility. Now, one of you asked who was the contractor and who was the labor that was working on this.
Because we already knew the answer to some of that.
Well, I'm telling you, like I said, I've been out here for a lot of years. I don't want to get involved in negotiating contracts between two private entities. Let the private entities negotiate the contracts. We have never been involved in that in all the years that I've been down here.
Members, or Madam Chair, if I could just respond to that.
Oh, wait.
I'm not saying that we should negotiate that, but I'm saying that it's, in the developer's own words, it's a residential building. It's residential, I shouldn't have to pay commercial and residential. From his own mouth, it's a residential building, but now it's a TIF, now it's a commercial building.
Just to respond back to that, me personally, I was voting for one way or the other because I didn't want to get involved with union negotiations. I got enough trouble with police contracts and labor contracts and everything else without getting involved in private negotiations between a developer and the labor unions. Don't want to be any part of that.
We're lenders in that agreement,